Hello, hello, hello. My name is Adam Williams, and you were listening to another episode of Retail Redeveloped. Now, I have to go back and check my notes, my show log, but this might be my first repeat guest. And I tell you what, it's a fun one. It's a good one. It's a special one for me. I'm being joined right now with a longtime friend, client, business partner, confidant at times, commiserator at many times. One Patrick Whalen. Met Patrick forever ago when he was running a nightclub in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Music Factory. We probably didn't like each other when we first met each other.
That's not true.
If I had to guess. Then he started a restaurant called Five Church.
I guess that means you didn't like me.
I didn't say that.
I liked you fine.
I didn't say that. Started a restaurant called Five Church. Has gone on to start many more. And I thought that now was a perfect time to just kind of hit a reset and talk to somebody whose opinion I respect very much. He made me promise right before I hit record that we're not going to do another kind of origin story of how Five Church started. Am I still allowed to ask you about the ceiling or anything? No. All right. No. So we can't ask about the ceiling. We can't ask about how Five Church started. But I want to welcome Patrick Whalen to the podcast. Before we get started, Pat, give everybody just a quick 30 seconds of you don't have to do the whole bio, but just who you are. Let people know who you are.
Well, first of all, that was the single greatest introduction I've received in my entire life. That was like a 5-minute introduction. I grew up in Charlotte, and I went to South Carolina and North Carolina undergrad. I moved to New York after college, and I've been in the restaurant business pretty much my whole life. I moved back to Charlotte in 2009 to open Butter Nightclub, which was at the Music Factory, like you mentioned. There I met my business partners, and we went on to open Five Church. Since then, we've opened, I think it's like 6 other places since then. And our most recent we just opened is called Tempest Restaurant, which is in Charleston, South Carolina, immediately next to our existing restaurant, Five Church Charleston.
Unpack that for tell people what Tempest is. You've been working on it forever.
So yeah,
tell people
Tempest
why it was so important to you and how you think it turned out.
Tempest is an upscale seafood concept that Jamie Lynch, who's our executive chef, has for a long time wanted to do basically a fine dining concept. And I have real reservations about doing that because I think financially it's hard to execute a business model built around fine dining. You really limit the field of people that can come in when your prices are consistent with what you have to charge to execute fine dining. And so we kind of accidentally came up with this concept where it was seafood, upscale seafood, and it's borderline fine dining. So it's not quite that level, either by way of price or service, but the food is. The food is incredible. The atmosphere is really extraordinary. We started designing and building it like 3 years ago, and we just got to the finish line. And I couldn't be prouder. I'm as proud of Tempest as I was of Five Church Charlotte when we opened, however long, 9 years ago.
So to get started, you're a very, very, you stand out. I've had a million clients over the course of more time than I even want to think about at the moment, but you've always stood out. You have a kind of a moral code about you that I've always found very interesting. And there's a phrase that has been a part of what you guys do a long time. I'd love to hear you explain why you've held on to it. There is only we. It's something that I've heard you say that many times over the years, and I'd love to understand like why that has grabbed you. I've seen it in artwork. I've seen it kind of sprinkled in to a million different ways. Obviously, it means something to you. Explain to me why that phrase has kind of stuck with you over the past 10 plus years.
There's only we is about making the concession that if you can do something well by yourself, if you find the right people, you'll probably do it better collectively. And that's a hard conceit, I think, for a lot of people to make, because there's this, I think, this fantasy about being some all-knowing, all-powerful Oz who just has like all the answers for everything and doesn't need help, and Horatio Alger's pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and created this amazing reality for themselves. And I don't think that that's very practical. No matter how much of an expert you may be on a certain field, there are always going to be overlapping areas of knowledge that you need to be successful, but you will just simply not have, because no one does. No one knows everything. And so that's especially true in the restaurant business, where I don't know if a lot of people know this, but to be successful in the restaurant business, you really have to have a functional knowledge of a lot of weird areas of industry that you don't necessarily affiliate with restaurants. Like, you have to understand accounting, and you have to understand sales and marketing, and you have to understand PR and design, and that's outside of your normal day-to-day just operations in the store. And I'm not an expert in all those things. I think I'm well versed at this point, but I'm certainly not an expert. And it made a lot more sense for me to find people and surround myself with people that were experts in those fields, and thereby make our team stronger. To do so, I had to sacrifice some power or some control of my own. I could have just run my own place, and I was the only one in charge, and that was going to be the way it was. That said, I probably would not have been remotely as successful as we were, because I didn't have the pieces that we needed to be really excellent. By finding guys like Chef Jamie Lynch and Alejandro Torio, we put together a team of people that are really special, in my opinion. And so that applies personally to our group. I also think it's good business generally. It's just, the capacity to be willing to not play a zero-sum game and compromise, put everyone's needs together first. Typically, many hands make for light work, and it's just a application of that sort of age-old principle.
So you talked about partners. I've known Alejandro and Jamie for a long time now. What has been the hardest lesson that you've learned about partnerships? How has your view on partnerships changed in the last, call it 10 years?
Sure. That's a good question. I think you have to have respect between the partners. That has to be the underlying core bedrock of any good partnership, is that the partners respect each other, respect their skills, respect their time, respect their knowledge, their hard work, all of those things. And I'm talking professionally, but I think also personally. I think that has something to do with it. I'm a big believer that taking business personally is a necessity, especially in my field. But I've had great experience with partners, and I've had really terrible experience with partners. And so the common theme between the experiences that were negative was a lack of respect. And I think that's the most important thing that you have to have. And it's also the thing that's easiest to miss. I mean, people care about, when they're trying to open a business, and it might not be restaurants only, is they worry about capital, they worry about skills, they worry about promotional, can somebody bring a lot of people into the store, and so for that much it's worth a certain amount of points, or can they give us $100,000 or $200,000, and so that's worth that much. But to really vet a partner means to understand 360 degrees what you're getting out of that person, and being prepared to deal with that, and hopefully to want that. And I think that if I could go back and do anything again with my partners, it would have been to thoroughly vet everybody to make sure that those core things were actually in place.
So how do you consistently keep everybody rowing in the same direction? I mean, I'll speak personally. Like, I have more business partners than I have fingers, right? Like, it's very hard. You're touching different businesses in different states. You're touching, to your point, you're drastically undersold how complicated a high volume restaurant is. I mean, just the amount of transactions that go through your point of sale system in a month is enough to be really hard. How do you keep partners and when I say partners, that can be financial partners, that can be financial equity partners, and that can be your key employees. Like how are you able to keep everybody focused and rowing in the same direction over the course of a restaurant's life? Because I mean, taking a restaurant from an idea in your head or idea in Jamie's head or Alejandro's head to the opening of Tempest that has just happened, it's like a fucking soap opera.
It's a process.
It's a soap opera.
Yeah.
I mean, just the lease negotiation, the part that I get my hands dirty with by itself is a soap opera, and you add 50 different layers on top of it. How do you keep everybody focused? How do you keep that respect? How do you keep people moving in the same direction?
Well, I can answer part of it really quickly and easily. When you're dealing with your partners, just as much transparency as you can and make sure they get checks. I mean, if we're being honest, I think, people that invest in a business, whether it's hospitality or any other, they'd like a return on investment. And as long as they get a steady check and they feel like you're being straight with them, they will row in whatever direction you ask them to row. Keeping good people is a much harder answer because it's so case specific. But what I found is that everyone that's in the restaurant business that wants to climb, that wants to have that be a career, has a similar personality trait. There's like a uniting sort of basic personality trait, which is that they like pleasing people. They like making other people happy. And I think a lot of people do anyways, but restaurant folk in particular have like a need almost to please. And I think a lot of times the way to keep people, like you said, rowing the same way is to make them feel as though they have an outlet in which they can please others. Whether that's a creative outlet for the guys in the kitchen, whether that's the freedom for a server at a table to not be on some sort of stilted corporate script, which I can't stand. Give the bartenders the liberty to go behind the bar and come up with a new drink, to suggest a different product to bring in, to let the sommeliers select the wine and let them program. And not as like a one-time deal, but as a institutionalized policy for the ops. When you do that and you give people that in a lot of other restaurants have been sort of powerless and then just sort of a cog in a machine, if you give them the chance to truly be part of it and have a sense of ownership in what they're doing, whether it be large or small, I've found that they're not only going to row in the same direction, but they want to, and they'll work harder, and they'll work longer if they feel inspired.
So let's talk about your team. Of all of your qualities, I'm not going to kiss your ass. I like you. I'd hated you, but now I like you. Subtlety is not high on your list of attributes.
Right.
How are you able to balance your kind of hunt destroy when it comes to problems or when it comes to things that you don't agree with from a hospitality or a philosophical standpoint? How are you able to balance that, what I would call like a hard edge, with your desire to see people get better? I know you care deeply about your key employees. I know you care deeply about the people that are in it and want it the way you want it. How do you balance those two?
Right.
And what have you learned over the last 10 years that has made you perhaps better at kind of balancing that? I mean, or maybe you're not. Maybe
I don't know. I think if you asked the wrong people, they'd say I'm worse.
Or the right people.
Maybe. The right people. Oh gosh. First of all, I don't know that I can speak about this without saying that I'm not sure that I'm always successful at maintaining that balance. It's a really fine line to walk, and the stakes are really high, especially now for the restaurant industry and for the economy generally. And so it's easy to lose your way, especially when you feel so strongly about things. I think I try to manage people the way that I would want to be managed, which is stern but empathetic, basically. Which is that I'm not going to ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do or that I haven't done. And I know it's kind of cliche, but it's 100% true. And then when somebody does something poorly in the restaurant business, I think that managers are well trained to point it out and to make sure that whoever made the mistake is aware of it. And that's important because that's how accountability works. But what's often missed is the willingness to tell somebody when they do a good job. Tell somebody that they have succeeded at something, and it doesn't have to be, hey, you sold a $1,000 bottle of first growth Cabernet. Rather, just, hey, you did a really nice job with that table touch, or you did a really nice job. Thank you for taking the trash out in the restroom without having to be asked. I mean, these are really small factors, but sort of paint a picture of someone's intentions. And if they're good intentions and they're coming from a good place, they need to hear about it, because that behavior needs to be incentivized and promoted and hopefully expanded amongst the entire staff. And so, when you hold somebody accountable, you tell them, hey, this is wrong, and you didn't, you should have done X, Y, or Z. When you do a great job, hey, awesome, and here's why this is awesome. You never want to go up to somebody and just blow them out of the water and then not explain why, because then you're just a jerk. Then your team is just like, well, this guy's just an asshole. And I think to answer the second part of your question, that's really the biggest difference in terms of my approach, if I can criticize myself here for a moment, is that I think the first couple of years at Five Church, I wanted so desperately for things to happen that weren't, because they just naturally weren't going to, given where we were operationally at the time, managerially at the time. And I wanted them to, so I thought that the way to do it was to just jump up and down and yell and scream and freak out and do it myself, over-leverage my own workload. And it just, I mean, it worked. We were making money, I guess, but it took an awful toll on me. It was horrible for our staff. I mean, reasonably,
you went through a lot of Tums.
Yeah, I ate a lot of Tums. I'm on the Prilosec, man. I don't need those Tums anymore. But I had a lot of staff that just absolutely hated my guts. And now you're not always going to like your boss, but I never wanted to be hated. I don't mind if somebody doesn't like me who I think is a jerk. I don't care what somebody thinks of me if I don't think much of them. But if there's somebody who's perfectly capable server who hates my guts because I'm just a wild man running around yelling and screaming, I don't blame them. If I'm going to be empathetic, then they have to understand their perspective. And I think over the last 10 years, let's call it, how did I say this? I used to say this to my managers all the time, that I was never wrong with what I was saying. I was wrong with how I was saying it. And I think, again, that's a little cliche, but it was totally true. I would be right about the position I was taking, but the way I went about it was so counterproductive, because I would get really angry, because in my mind, this person their mistake is standing between us and our ability to succeed. And so it's all on the line, every issue, no matter how small, no matter how nuanced. And their lack of awareness of that was not acceptable. That's not true. Not at all. The restaurant business is a business of tides, like in the ocean. It comes in and goes out, and comes in and goes out, and you have to be willing to ride out the low tide to get back to the high tide. And that's kind of chilled me out a little bit. I've also had 3 kids in the last 10 years, and so that's definitely
that'll teach you some patience.
Oh yeah.
What have you learned about? Because the most frustrating thing about any hospitality business, and this could be hotel, this could be retail, this could be your freaking local, dress shop, right? How have you figured out how to take that part of your brain that cares more than anybody else and instill that into your frontline workers? The example I always use, and I apologize to people that listen to the program, because they probably heard me say this a few times. Like, you walk into a McDonald's and then you walk in right next door. I'm talking 50 feet away
to a Chick-fil-A.
Freaking Chick-fil-A.
I didn't know you were going to say that, but it's Chick-fil-A. Of course, always Chick-fil-A.
Like, what do they do, or what have you done to try to take that piece of your brain that cares that the restaurant should have had the trash taken out of the bathroom 30 minutes ago, and it might have affected my wife's meal because she's like, wow, the trash is a little full. Wonder what they're not doing that I can't see.
What are they missing? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how do you take that piece of your brain that really only exists in an owner, and drill it down into your frontline worker. Because if the hostess is having a shitty day, she just broke up with her boyfriend, and I walk in and she's not excited to see me when I'm about to drop $200 or $300 on a meal. You know, that it's a little scorecard that's in people's head. Like how do you try to combat that?
It totally is. I don't know. I mean, it's okay to say I don't know. I don't know that I have the best answer. I think that if you can give the staff a sense of ownership of their respective role in the company, first of all, if they're making a good living. If they're making a good living, I think that they're going to be more pliable to whatever you're asking them to do, not because they necessarily want to, but because that's what facilitates their income. I've always said and I'll apologize to my team because I say this all the time, is that there's nothing proprietary about the Five Church logo per se or the ceiling, and we don't own the rights to Sun Tzu, The Art of War. It's an art piece. The menu is good. It's an upscale new American menu. But what's proprietary about our business are the people that populate it. And that's always going to be the case, particularly with restaurants, but lots of businesses, I'm sure. You know, what makes you special are the people that fill your store. And so if you can give those people a sense of creative outlet, we were just discussing a few minutes ago about, you know, one of the things I hated about corporate restaurants, what I hate about corporate restaurants personally, is that it's not there for me. Like, it's there for the masses. It's not there for me. There's nothing custom about my experience there, and it's a good business model, and I don't blame them for it, but it doesn't feel personalized in any way. In fact, I feel kind of dumb and talked down to, and they have their script and they upsell, which, by the way, I'm going to write a book and it's called Stop Upselling. That's my new philosophy on life. But it just doesn't feel like it's part of me in any way, or I'm part of it. It's just I'm a number on a spreadsheet. Whereas when someone comes to the restaurant, we have the capacity to connect to them in a real way if we try. And again, if that's what people are really there for in the beginning, if they're allowed to be creative and have that sense of ownership, and then they're rewarded for their good performance, I think people will just they want to believe in something. You just have to make a promise and then keep your promise with them. And we try to do that. We're not always successful, but we try.
Why stop upselling? Why is that a hot button for you right now?
It's because it's so.
Give me a real world example.
It's just so crass. It's so crass. It's so. I mean, we do it. We've done it at Five Church for years. It's good business practice from a very dollars and cents standpoint only. If you take hospitality out of the hospitality business, there is no better thing than upselling. Don't you want a side of fucking gratin mashed potato? Like, no, I don't want that. And it's funny that you asked me that, because if I had wanted a side of mashed potatoes, I would have ordered a side of mashed potatoes. Random dude that I just met. I don't have any relationship with you, server. And so why are you telling me to buy things that I don't want? You asked me what I wanted. I told you, transaction adjourned. Done. Why are you trying to sell me more things? It makes me feel as though their need to either make more money or to do what their boss or their corporate structure tells them to do outweighs my need as a consumer to build a relationship of trust with my staff, with my server, and enjoy my experience immersively rather than being hustled. And I can't stand it. I don't believe it, and I don't like it.
My favorite thing is when you're at a restaurant and you ask the server, you know, what wine they recommend. They obviously don't know a tremendous amount about wine, and it's the most expensive wine on the
we have Opus
list.
One.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't offer it by the glass, but if you'd like a bottle, I can bring it over for you.
That's my favorite one.
We've got the big glasses. So you wanted a real world example, right? Is exactly that, where you walk in and you've made your order, and I mean the oldest trick in the book is the sides.
Hold the potatoes.
The sides. You know, would you like anything? Would you like any sides from our menu? Would you like a salad with that? Would you like a salad? No, I don't want a fucking salad. If I wanted a salad, I would have asked you for a salad.
I fall for that one all the time, though.
So do I, and I don't like it. It totally works, but I can't stand it.
All right, so let's stay in the four walls of the restaurant, or go back to the four walls of the restaurant. You have a system, Five Church. It's not quite fine dining, but it's certainly upper
Yeah,
end.
it's upscale.
upscale dining.
Yeah.
And you followed that up with a lot more. I don't know if you missed the menu, but everything is supposed to be healthy, fast, casual right now, right? Like if you're not doing healthy, fast, casual,
right? Really?
You're like, I don't know why you're still in business.
I probably shouldn't be, I guess.
Why is this what you choose to why is this your hill?
I'm gonna make people angry right now.
Good. That's why you're here.
Because healthy, fast, casual is bullshit and people don't like it. They don't. They go because it's good for them. I go because it's good for me. Okay? Panera is better for you than McDonald's. Just straight up. But it's not as good.
And the French fries are really good at McDonald's.
The French fries at McDonald's are like drugs. It's not even, it shouldn't be legal. And so, people go out to eat because they want to enjoy themselves in a way that they couldn't at home. They can't surround themselves with people. They can't put themselves in that environment. They can't eat that kind of food because they can't make it. And I know because right now I'm bunking with Jamie Lynch in Charleston for the opening, and he's making food for my family every night, and it's ridiculous. Now, I can cook food, not particularly well, but I can. He comes down there and just starts throwing spices in, and it's just like he's making me a feast that I couldn't even have possibly imagined on my own. So, I don't know. I mean, I got lost somewhere in there. What are we talking about?
I think we were talking about why you're not doing fast casual.
Oh, why don't we fast? Oh, the health food thing. Why do we don't do health food? Is I don't think there's anything special about it. I don't think it makes you feel good. I think it's reducing us down to being functional. I mean, when you talk about your health, it's about your function. And I view hospitality as a diversion, not as a function. Now, yes, there's a functional component to it. You have to eat your food, right? You have to eat to survive, you have to drink to survive. But you can go to the grocery store and buy Oat Bran and water and survive forever. Why go to a restaurant, like you said, pay $200 or $300 to eat food that somebody else made? And you do it because you want to feel taken care of. You want to feel immersed and transported. You want to be made to feel happy. And you can't do that eating
Oat Bran,
shitty food.
Water. Yeah. Talk to me about the convergence of art and food. What does it mean to you?
Yeah. It's the same thing. It's expressive. Okay, so when you see an art piece or you hear a song that you like, that you really like, that you like immediately on your first listen or your first viewing, you don't know why you like it. You just do. It strikes to the core of who you are and what you're about so much, and it resonates so much so that you just feel positive. It's just an incredibly positive emotion. That's what inspiration sort of is, if I was going to define it. And so food absolutely 100% has the same effect on people. In fact, it actually might have the most effect on people, more so than any movie or music or art piece that's out there, because everyone eats food every day. The capacity of a business to be able to integrate something that's 360 degrees. To be able to integrate something 360 degrees where you're using service, ambiance, and food in a way that's artistic, it's like you're pushing all the pleasure buttons at the same time. Where the food is amazing and transports you, and then the design is amazing and transports you, and the service is so kind and giving and it transports. It's like it's all art in a way, and so I think that it doesn't have to be that way. You can walk into a place that's all white drywall and have an amazing meal and it's unifunctional and it's great. But if you are able to incorporate all the other facets of design and sound, I mean, sound design is a huge part of our restaurants. You can elevate the experience even higher than before.
All right, so someone has given you a crystal ball or superpowers, something like that. What's today? August 19th. We're in the shit, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody's giving you a superpower. You're the governor, Patrick Whalen, North Carolina.
Oh boy.
What are you doing right now? Because obviously restaurants have been absolutely crushed over the last 6 months. I hear some people say, we're all adults. The mortality rate is next to zero. Screw you. Let us open. Let us go back to full capacity. And I've heard other people say, like, listen, my so-and-so is high risk. How dare you? We should all sit in our homes, watch the 24-hour news cycle, and,
hope for a vaccine.
And hope for a vaccine. You're biased, obviously, because your income and livelihood is a lot like mine. Like, we're retail humans, right? That puts food on our plates. But what would you have done differently? What do you see? What do you want to see happen? Move forward. Your Governor Patrick Whalen, or President Patrick Whalen. Hell, why?
No. I mean, clearly there should have been a nationalized policy from day one. I mean, there just should have been a policy that was put in place and not made all the governors fight each other over what. We have restaurants in Charlotte, in North Carolina, South Carolina, about to be in Nashville or in Tennessee, and so. You've got 3 different states, 3 different enforcement rules, 3 different codes, 3 different relief packages. It's a total mess. It's hard to keep track of, honestly, if we're following the rules, allegedly or not. And so having a national policy is clearly the thing that should have happened, and it should have happened, back in March or April when we had everybody, closed and shut down. And okay, let's come up with a good plan and move forward. Now that aside, what I'd really like is just. If I could do anything right now, I would shut down everything. I would shut down everything, and I would find a way to provide subsidies for those places that are shut down. And the reason for that is not because I want to shut my businesses down. It's because until there is a clear policy in place nationwide, we're just exacerbating the problem. We're dragging it out. That's what I would do if I was a governor. As a business owner, I think I just want to see some accountability. It's like, okay, I'm the governor. I just told you can only have 50% occupancy at all the restaurants. There has to be something on the other side of the scale that counterbalances that. You can't just be like, okay, well, you're all mandatorily closed. Sorry. And we've got no economic way to support you. And we're just going to, as a government, just unilaterally put you out of business. I mean, I know a lot of people. I mean, I know the guys at Queen City Q. I mean, like, Brian, like, he got hosed. He got completely screwed. Because some places can't hang around and just tread water for months on end. Our group is lucky that we have been able to, but many places can't. And so the whole thing about this process that's been so unnerving is, besides the lack of plan, which in and of itself is horrifying, but is that so you put these orders in place that says, okay, you can or cannot do this thing that is remarkably outside the norm of day-to-day practice, but then there's no acknowledgement of the ripple effect or consequences on that business on the state level. The federal government passed, some stuff kind of poorly, but they passed some stuff back in March and April, but that's all gone. That money, the PPP money, is long gone. We're at a crisis now, and by we I mean the country is at a crisis now, and there's nothing happening. It's just everybody's just hoping we get to the election, I guess. I don't know. And so my biggest problem is that there seems to be a lack of plan and or accountability across the board. And that's all I think a lot of people really want right now. Just tell us anything to do. Tell us not just one thing, just tell us anything to do and give us a little direction and guidance, and help the businesses that are really, really struggling. And obviously restaurants fall into that category.
I talk to people every single week on this show that are all much smarter than I am. Very, very, I know bar set low, but extremely intelligent retail brains that are on this show. And all of them say that there's been literally a 3 to 5 year acceleration of all the trends that existed in retail have happened in the last 6 months.
Right.
And you think about how much retail changes in 5 years. To think that's happened in 6 months is crazy. I've also heard that there's a lot of people that have kind of backburnered things that they've just never had time to get to. Now they're knocking them out. What have you guys seen in your business that you think might be around when things move forward? Because I mean, obviously, fast casual, drive-through, those businesses have been through the roof. I've heard some restaurateurs have tried to figure out how to give a glimpse of the in-store experience in their to-go program, whether it's cocktail kits, whether it's really elevated to-go flatware and packaging, and things are being built for that model. And that's really freaking hard to do in a concept like you guys. But what do you think is going to be the lasting effect in your business or maybe in the business at large?
Well, it's going to sound kind of counterintuitive, but I actually think this process is awful to live through. Truly, it's awful to live through. But I actually think it's a great indicator for the viability of the restaurant business, specifically the dine-in restaurant business. And the reason for that is because brick and mortar retail is being systematically destroyed by Amazon, by Walmart, by Home Depot. And I'm not criticizing those businesses. That's just the evolution of big box retail right now. Department stores are over. Malls are over. Because you can take the experience of going to a mall and outweigh the value of that with the ease of making a purchase on Amazon, which is why Bezos is going to be worth $1 trillion in 10 years or whatever it is. You can't do that with restaurants. You cannot replace that experience. And for what it's worth, that's what people want. The number. So we just opened Tempest last weekend, and the number of times that I was told, this is the first time that we've been out of our house, and oh my God, I'm so happy I'm here, right? They didn't go to the movies, they didn't go to the mall, or they came to us. You can't replicate hospitality. That's also why, again, going back to pick on corporate restaurants a little bit more corporate restaurants try to do that, to standardize it. It's all in a book, and you just got to open this book and read it, and you got to operating Darden Group restaurant in a few months. That's not what a restaurant is in my book. A restaurant is a place that you go to be taken care of, and you can't get that at home. You can't get that on Amazon. You can't order it. You can't do it yourself. It has to be done for you. And so because of that, I look at what we do, and I'm like, I'm just so bullish on well-run restaurants once we can survive this. Conversely, all of the methods that you discussed before for full-service restaurants are, at least as far as I'm concerned, are very small fixes, if you even want to call it that. We do carry out, we do delivery. We'll take advantage of all of them if we can, but that's not moving the dial for us at all. You're talking about 1% to 2% sales accounted for by way of those things for us versus the in-dining experience.
So let's lighten it. Who do you look at for inspiration? And I'm not talking about God. I'm talking about business-wise, design-wise, execution-wise. This could be a Danny Meyer. Mm-hmm. This could be a design magazine that you guys really geek out about. This could be your local hamburger joint, like the place that the Zao biscuit that you guys used to love down
They're coming
there.
Here. They're going into Optimus Hall.
Dude, you heard it here first. I freaking love that damn Okonomiyaki. That shit is slamming.
It's pretty good.
But who inspires you? And it can be a restaurant. It can be anything. Your choice.
Okay, this is going to sound totally obnoxious, but I have an answer. Nobody. The people that inspire. This is the truth. The people that inspire me are the people that work for me. Honestly, I am inspired by people who are driven to achieve something special. And that doesn't mean that I can't see a guy like, what was his name? Sumner. He just passed away. He was a guy who bought CBS. Redstone? Anyway. He was just he lived an amazing life. You hear his eulogy and you're like, this is one person that did all these things. And that's fascinating to me. Danny Meyer, an amazing restaurateur. Lots to learn there. Keith McNally and all these guys, but they don't really inspire me the way that they used to. They used to inspire me, but I know how to do all the things that they know how to do. Their application is a little bit different than mine, but I kind of learned what I need to learn from them. I don't work with them, so I can't get any more. My participation with them is fairly limited. Whereas working with people that are really talented and also really ambitious it's like I wake up in the morning and I want to get up and start working at 5 o'clock. 5 a.m. and just I don't know when that happened. But I started waking up at 5 a.m. all the time now. But I think of something like I'll use a great example. When we opened Tempest, before we opened it, we were having a debate over whether or not we were going to do a piece of press for the media. And my CDC, a gentleman named Will Kammer, told me that the entire reason that he came to work for me at Tempest, he came from the Optimist in Atlanta, and he actually worked for us at Five Church back in the day too. But he said, "I'm here to win a James Beard Award." And I was like, "Holy shit!" It's like it made me go, "Okay, I need to step up my game here. This guy's and you have to know the guy, but he has very piercing eyes and like doesn't break eye contact at all. And so that's true. Sorry, Will, if you hear this, but he
creeping
does.
us out, Will.
Will,
Just kidding.
Tone it down, dude. Freaking us out. No, but he just looked so focused and intent, and there was zero doubt in my mind that he was 100% serious. That's what he was going to do. He was not going to rest. He was not going to eat or sleep if that wasn't what he was out to achieve. That's just what he wanted. And I see people that are like that. And in our industry, sometimes the talented people in the restaurant industry get a little forgotten because it's still a little bit out on the cusp. Even though it's been normalized the last, let's say, 20 years, it still feels a little bit on the cusp sometimes versus, like, let's say, lawyers or bankers or doctors or whatever. And so whereas from where I sit, it's a very viable career. I've done very well in this industry. But I think when you find people in our business that have that kind of intensity and motivation and also know that they have a little chip on their shoulder because we're in an industry that gets overlooked a lot, I'm like, oh my God, I got to work harder for that person. That person inspires me. What can we do to impress that person? And my company's filled with people that are like, I mean, our cup runneth over right now with people that fit that profile.
Well, Pat, you've already been very gracious with your time. Tell people how they can connect with the restaurants. Like, what websites should they go to? How can people find out more about what you guys are doing?
About us?
Yep. I know you have a large digital footprint, but send people to
well, we're on all the social media, Instagram, whatnot, but it's fivechurch.com and then fivechurchcharleston.com, tempestcharleston.com. So or you just Google Jamie Lynch, and
he's everywhere.
He was on Top Chef a couple times. He is. He's omnipresent.
Yeah, he's all.
He might be outside right now. I don't know. He might be like listening with a cup against the door right now.
And he's easy to spot. He's easy to spot.
Actually, that would probably be Alejandro. Honestly, if somebody's listening to the door with a cup, it would probably be Alejandro.
Although no, he would be out in the hallway texting. He wouldn't be. All right, quick. It's time for some quick knee jerk.
Okay.
Questions. All right. So last night. I was actually working. Shockingly enough, I was showing space, and it was two guys. They were brothers, and similar to your guy that kind of jacked you up the other day. These guys worked at a restaurant for a long time. Literally scraped together couch cushion money to open their first restaurant in a freaking. There's no way they're listening to this shithole strip center right in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And now they've got 5 freaking restaurants. Just guys that just kind of got to me, right? I was really excited. Went home excited. What do you tell that guy that's scraping together couch cushion money? They've been working somewhere. They want to make this. They've gone from, this is just a summer job to this is a career choice. Like, what is that piece of advice that somebody gave to you or that you kind of fall back on to that young guy that wants to really make this a career and do this for the long haul?
Learn it all as much as you can and don't stop learning. Don't get to a point where you feel comfortable with your knowledge and say, okay, well, I kind of know how to do this now, so I can go to the next thing. Don't let your ambition outpace your experience and skill set. And I am absolutely guilty of this, and I have a lot of scars to prove it, honestly. Don't try to outrun your coverage. You might have aspirations to open 20 stores, but you still got to do it one at a time. And each one's got to be great, or else you're going to open one store and it's going to be over. So keep learning every day when you come into work. If you got nothing to do, walk around for 5 minutes and look around your store, and I promise you'll find 30 things that you could spend weeks on if you really wanted to. Just give yourself the gift of time, especially as a young entrepreneur, a young business owner. Give yourself the gift of time and realize that it's not a race. Just because you heard about another restaurateur opening a new place in another city doesn't mean that you have to do that right now. Take your time, develop your business model, develop your concept, make sure it's executed properly, learn it 360 degrees, and then decide if it's scalable and you can move on. And if you can, great. And if you can't, be happy with what you've done and come up with a new concept. That's what I would do.
I'm gonna couch this. This is a quick knee jerk. I still expect a quick.
Was that supposed to be a fast answer? Because it wasn't fast at all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You didn't do a good job on the first.
I'll do the next one faster.
Well, no, you're not. I know you won't.
I will.
So when I'm sitting down at a restaurant, and I don't care if I'm getting a $4 cheeseburger or if I'm getting a $40 ribeye, when a server brings me my drink, and he or she or them or whatever brings me the cup and is holding the top of the cup where I'm about to put my mouth, I usually don't freak, but in my head, I'm just perturbed.
It's gross.
It's fucking gross.
It's gross. Especially now. Especially these. Not that it's not always gross, but especially these days.
Gross. It was gross.
But right now, you need to.
5 years ago.
It's even worse now.
And I remember I've been sitting with you probably too many times, and your poor server. It's always like his first day, and I'll ask a question because I'm a naturally curious person, and they'll try to bullshit their way through the question, and you'll be there.
Right.
And I can feel your blood pressure going up, and I've heard you say this, like, I don't know is an okay answer.
Right.
Like, you're allowed to say, like, let me check.
Right.
But what is your biggest pet peeve when it comes to hospitality? It doesn't have to be just in your restaurant.
I mean, it ties to that. That's a really great question, and it ties exactly to that lead-in, which is it's about sincerity. I think the restaurant business is most successful when it's most sincere. If you're really trying to make someone happy, you have to build, as a server, let's say, you have to build trust with them. You can't do that by walking over and, first of all, lying. One of the steps of service, or one of the number one management things that I talk about with my team, is don't offer your quote unquote favorite dish unsolicited. I fucking hate when servers do that. Come over, well, my favorite's this. I'm like, well, I don't know you. Like, who the fuck are you? I just met you 5 minutes ago, Tina. Let's get to know each other first. And if our perspective about dining out is similar, then perhaps I will ask you what you suggest in this restaurant. But if I have something in mind already, I don't want to feel like I'm disappointing you because now I don't agree with what your favorite is, and now it's awkward at the table, and you don't want to come over here anymore. Anyway, sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but
so we'll go with insincerity.
I just don't. I want people to be honest. If they don't know, that's fine, dude. The number of possible wines, drinks, cocktails, food, modifiers, verifications, seat numbers that a server or a bartender or a support staff needs to know, steps of service, to be able to be successful in a restaurant is really crazy. I don't think people will understand that. And so if they miss on something, or if they're new and they just started, they don't know, then just say you don't know and make a little joke of it. And the manager will come over and they'll have a nice self-effacing moment. There's nothing wrong with saying you don't know. And then moreover, I think it's kind of charming to say, I mean, if you don't know anything, then you should probably quit or you're going to get fired. You shouldn't be working the floor. But isn't that my fault as a business owner that I'm allowing somebody to be on the floor that doesn't know what they're talking about? Why am I taking my day out on them? The only way we're going to is if they're not being honest. Be straight with your guests, and I think that will pay off. It's the same as like not upselling. That's a scam. That's a hustle. It's a con. I don't want to be hustled. I just want you to be real with me. I'm going out to eat. It's a selfish activity. Just take care of me and don't treat me like I'm stupid, and don't try to rip me off. Just bring me what I want, make me happy, and I'll leave, and I'll give you a great review, and I'll give you a great tip, and I'll come back and eat here again. So there.
Slightly shorter. Still not short enough.
Sorry.
Favorite wine? What are you drinking right now?
I'm not drinking any wine right now. It's giving me horrible heartburn. I have heartburn anyway, and so I have acid reflux. So I drink a lot of bourbon now.
Favorite bourbon?
Oh, man.
Or what are you drinking right now?
I mean, Jefferson Ocean, if I get my hands on it.
Ooh, I have a bottle I haven't cracked yet.
Do you? Oh, maybe we should tie one on. Might need it.
Randy Gagne, shout out. I will open it. Appreciate the Jefferson.
Oh, is that from Buddy? Yeah. I mean, I'll drink kind of anything that we have on the shelf. I don't want to drink Jim Beam, but like if it's a good bourbon, I'll drink it. I don't drink a lot. I'll drink like a bourbon or two at dinner, maybe 2-3 nights a week. And so because I'm not drinking a lot, I can be fairly selective.
You got the good shit.
I like to have the fancy schmancy stuff.
I see an influx of second generation restaurants coming.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard reports 30, 40, 50%, right? It's going to be a lot. And there's going to be a lot of fly by night operators that are going to be able to come in and get these second generation spaces. What do you think about kind of the pop-up kitchen, the ghost kitchen, like the people that are just going to open and set up kind of this to go? I've got 3 different menus that you can choose from, and you never see me, and we open. Do you think that's going to be something sustainable, something that we're going to see for a while? Or do you think that's just kind of a fly-by-night?
It's a business model I don't know a whole lot about, to be honest with you. I mean, so much of how we work at our company is about building towards long-term. We have very specific long-term aspirations. And so, like, things like that, I kind of just... I don't dismiss the people that are doing it or the concept itself. I just dismiss them for my needs. I'm not going to do it, and so I'm not going to spend time thinking about it. That said, I mean, if there's a model out there that works, great. Good for them. Going back to what you had said at the beginning of that, I thought I kind of hung on to a part of that where you said if it's 30%, 40%, the barrier to entry is going to be really low, right? And you're going to get some people in there that probably shouldn't be. But that's who we were. When we got a 5 Church, we had no business getting 6,000 square feet uptown.
Snake bit space, remember?
I mean, it was the only reason we got it is because it was cursed, and it was just never going to work. And the IV's board was going to be impossible, which they weren't. They were very reasonable, and our landlord was terrible, which he wasn't. He was a very reasonable guy. Very reasonable. He gave us a very good lease. Thank you, Adam Williams. So I think that there's going to be a whole bunch of people that come in with some sort of, let's say, half-baked, incompletely thought-out business models that are not going to work. But at the same time, it also allows guys like we were long ago, unfortunately, to get a chance. And maybe there's and the next great restaurant's going to come out of that opportunity. You gotta have a forest fire to let the little trees grow. Sometimes doesn't mean that every little tree is going to be a giant tree one day. It just means it has a chance. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to what comes to market. I'm really tired of tired business models, and I just think that if you've got your restaurant in 50 cities across the country, then there's nothing special about what you're doing. It's just about making money, and good for them. But I'm not interested in it.
Last question: favorite restaurant that you're eating at can't be yours, and it could be in
Charlotte or anywhere.
Charlotte, Charleston, Nashville, anywhere that you're spending a lot of time. Yeah.
Ooh.
Or it could be your favorite experience you had pre-COVID. It could be this year. I'll give you that latitude.
I mean, Lewis's Barbecue is my favorite restaurant. Lewis's Barbecue is like one of the best restaurants I've been at, period, ever, anywhere. And it's not. I mean, it's almost not even really a restaurant. It's like a cafeteria. You've been there, right? It's like a cafeteria line. And you go sit outside, and it's but I mean.
Sold out at 12.
The food is it's obnoxious. Like you eat it and you're like, how are they doing this? That's how I feel when I eat Jamie's food sometimes. Where I'm like, what are you doing back there? It's so good. It's so consistent. The people there are incredibly nice, and they deal with remarkable volume, and they're so pleasant and friendly, which I don't know how they do because I would get a little tired of people after a while. I think the decor is beautiful. They've just did a great job, and I've never had a bad experience there. And in fact, we're talking about it now I want it because it's that good. But yeah, that's the spot.
Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Whalen, ending on a high note, ending on a sunny note.
There we go. Optimistic.
And I just want to take a second and acknowledge you for coming on, for sharing wisdom, sharing knowledge, sharing a lot of scar tissue. These are lessons that are never fun to learn, and they come at a cost, and they come at a lot of time. They cost a lot of effort, And I just want to take a second and say thank you for sharing that knowledge and that wisdom with people listening. And I know there's somebody out there that's going to listen to this and translate it to their business and do something special. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.